Alright, you've just completed your waste audit and you've put in this data, so you collected it on a piece of paper that you've written on, and now you've transferred it to this Excel spreadsheet here. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now what we want to do is we want to run some calculations. Alright, and the first calculation we want to write is we want to work out what's the total weight of the rubbish in the bin. Now, you can grab a calculator and you can punch it in that way and you can write it on it, that's all well and good. But Excel can do the calculations for us. It can act like a calculator. So let's do this first calculation, bin 1. Okay, so we want to work out what's the total weight of waste in that bin. Well, anytime you want to do a calculation, you click on the cell that you want to go in, and then we're going to click on equals. Equals is our way of telling Excel we want to do we want the calculator to work on here. Now we just got to remember some of our maths. Because we want to add these up, we want to sum them up. Well, we use the word sum. And then we're going to open up a bracket. Okay, so equals to tell the Excel we're going to do that, and we're going to use the special word sum for adding. And there's lots of other words like that in Excel that we're going to use that will help us out that way as well. Right, so which numbers then we've got to tell Excel which numbers do we want to add up. So I'll click on that one and then I'll just drag it across, click and drag. There you go. It's telling me add up the numbers from C3 to E3. Right? And then I'll close the bracket. Okay, equals sum, open up a bracket, drag the numbers that you want in there, and then we'll press enter. And have a look at that, it's done 1.38 kilograms of rubbish because we know that's our unit of measure. Now we can go and do that for each cell like that and type that in, but Excel's pretty clever in that we can copy that formula and paste it into those cells so we don't have to do too much typing. So I click on that cell that I've just done the calculation on. I'll go down the bottom right corner and I'll get a plus sign, a little crosshair, and I'll click, I'll hold, and I'll drag, and you can see that there's like a little dotted lines there, and then I'll let go. And have a look at that. It's done all the calculations for us straight away. It's added those numbers up, okay, across that way. It copied that formula from in there, and it's done the same for each row that's there. Now that's fantastic. Alright. The next thing that we want to do is we want to work out the percentage that can be diverted from landfill. In other words, this is the total amount of waste in our bin. How much of that, what percentage of that can be diverted? Well, if we look at these two here, these are the ones that can be diverted. So we want to add those up and then divide it by that one there. And that will give us our percentage. Well, we know how to do adding up. So we're going to go equals, type in the word sum. And we're going to open up a bracket, and let's add those two guys up. We're going to close that bracket. Now we don't press enter just yet. Right, what we now need to do is we need to divide it by this number, because that's how you work out percentage. So I'm going to do the / button for divide. Okay, and that's the one where the question mark button is, or next to the shift button. And now I want to divide it by this number here. So let's have a look at my formula bar up here, equals sum, okay, sum, open bracket, D3 to E3, close bracket, so that's going to add that up, and it's going to divide it by F3 there. Alright, I'll click enter. Look at that, it's done 0.87. Now we know, some of us might remember that 0.87 as a decimal is the same as saying as 87%. But I actually want that to say 87%. So I'm going to click on that cell, and then because I'm on the Home tab, I'm going to come across up the top here and it says percent. I'm going to click on percent. There you go. It's telling us that 87% of that bin can be diverted from landfill. Now rather than type that formula all the way through here, remember the trick, I'm clicked on that cell, go down the bottom corner there, get the little plus crosshair sign, what it is, and click and drag that down, and that does that calculation for us automatically. Look at that, 87%, 49%, 84%, 61. I think there's a lot there in it for us. Alright, now let's do these other ones here. We want to work out the average per bin. Now, a lot of us know that average is that we'll have to add all those up and divide by how many bins. So we add all those up and then divide by 4. Well, Excel's a bit smarter than that for us. What it can do is it knows to do that. So what we do is we go equals, because we want to do a calculation, and we tell Excel that we want to do an average. Look at that, and it tells us that we've got a function. If this little drop down box comes in, it tells us that we're using a proper function that Excel can do. We open up a bracket, and then we're going to do that. Okay, click and drag. Look at that down here, and then we're going to close that. Excel knows that there's 4 numbers. It's going to sum those up automatically, and then it's going to divide it by 4. And look at that, it's done it automatically for us, 0.635. We're saying on those 4 bins, we're on average 0.635. We now want to do that for each of those. Well, simple as that, because it's the same formula that's going to go across in there. Click on that cell, go down the bottom right corner, click, drag across, don't go into the blue one, and then release. Okay, click and drag and release, and there we go. So it's done the calculations there for us automatically. Okay, so that's pretty good there straight away. Alright, let's have a look at our total school daily waste. Well, what we need to now, roughly, if we're on average just on that sample size of producing 0.63, let's say 1.8 kilograms of waste per bin, just on those 4 bins, if we were to factor in all the bins, okay, how much waste we produce. So what we want to do is use the total bins. Now, I don't know what the total bins at the school are. I'm going to double check that later, and then you guys are going to go out there and count and find that, you know, to do this assignment really well. Okay, so what I want Excel to do is I want to grab that number and I want to multiply it by that. Grab that number, multiply it by that. Now, this problem is if I go, if I type in J2 just in there, and I click and drag that across, that's going to go K2, L2, M2. Have a look at this, K2, there's nothing there, L2, so it's not going to calculate anything. We need to tell Excel to stay on that number if I do a click and drag, okay, that this number has to stay constant. Right, so how do I do that? So I'm going to go equals, and I'm going to want to times that, see the average times number of bins. I know it's in J2. So the times button is shift number 8, so you get the star. So that's how we tell Excel that we want to multiply. And I want to make that constant. So I'm going to go the $sign. I'm going to hit J, the $sign again, and number 2. And that's not going to move across. Sorry, then I'm going to press enter. Alright, so it's saying 19 kilos of general waste per day at school based on 30 bins. If I change that 30 there, watch this, I'll go 29. Okay, oops, look at that, it's done some wacky stuff for me. Don't know what's going on there. Equals that times J2, enter. If I change that, it should change that number automatically for us. Alright, but now what we're going to do is copy and paste that across. Alright, and if I click on that one, look at that. See how it stays in J2 just there? Alright, and enter. See it stays in J2. It stays in J2, sticking that number. Alright, so look at this. According to this, we're producing 54.97 kilograms of rubbish. It will be interesting to see what your numbers come up with after your bin audit, your waste audit. See what on average each student is producing. Alright, so have a look at this. Average divided by total students. Okay, so we're going to go equals, and click on average. The divided by sign is the /. I'm going to click on 720 up here on that J1 and click enter. But hang on a second. If I click and drag that across, check this out. It's going to give an error. Why? Because I click in here, look, it says K1. Let's go double click back on that cell. Alright, go back to the formula bar just there. Now I want it to stay on J1, so I'm going to do the $sign, J, $1. Click enter. I click on that cell and click and drag and copy that across. Look at that, it's done it for us. Now we want to do the yearly waste. Okay, so apparently we're all producing C10. Okay, apparently we're all producing, you know, about 100 grams of general waste, or about 300 grams of waste each. Okay, if I go yearly waste, let's have a look at that. If I want to go average per bin. We know we're at school for 40 weeks a year, and there's 5 days a week, so that's 200 days. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to go equals, grab that average per bin, okay, no average per bin. What I want to do is go total school daily waste, okay, times 200. I go enter. Look at this, we're producing, 3 ton of general waste. So if I click that across there, click and drag and copy. Look at this. According to this, we're nearly making 11 ton of waste going into the bin. Now let's see how much of this can be diverted. Now, because we did this formula before, all we have to do is just click on that cell there. We want to copy that formula right across down here, click and drag down the bottom, and look at that. 65% of our waste can be diverted. Now, I don't like these div things. They're not very good. It just tells me that there's something wrong with the formula. I just highlight over it and delete. There you go. So according to my calculations here, 65% of our waste can be diverted. That's pretty problematic. Let's see what yours comes up with. And the next video will show you how to grab these numbers here and turn them into graphs.